Greetings, my name is Kerry and welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you the finally fall book tag, although I am British so I will be referring to it as autumn. Autumn is my favourite season of the year. I love when it starts getting a little bit colder and you can wear nice cosy jumpers again. I love when the leaves change colour and fall to the ground and they make a lovely crunchy sound as you walk all over them. And I love it because my birthday is in autumn and we have fireworks night in the UK in November, which is one of my favourite festivals. Yeah, so I really enjoy lots of things about autumn. So I saw this book tag done by Shelby from What's My Page Again and I thought I'll give that one a go. It was originally created I think by Tall Tales, so I will link both of their videos down below in the description so you can check them out. I've also decided when I do tag videos I'm going to try and talk about books I haven't talked about very much or at all before, to try and share some bookish love and bring some different books to my channel. So there will always be a couple that I talk about a lot, so I will be mentioning a few old favourites again, but I want to try and tell you about more books that you may not have heard of. So hopefully there's some new ones here that I've not talked about before as well that you might discover and enjoy. So on to the questions. Question 1. In fall the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. So I was looking back at my bookshelves trying to think of the book that I remembered most clearly, being able to picture the surroundings, that the characters were in as I was reading it. So I've gone for Murder in Montego Bay by Paula Lennon. This is a detective novel set in Jamaica and Paula Lennon is Jamaican, so she really captures the atmosphere very well and made it really come to life. Her descriptions of, particularly of the police station, were really vivid, so I could see them. I could see Detective Preddy's flat very clearly and it just made me feel really warm and it was very sunny because I could see the setting so clearly in this book. So if you like detective fiction, if you like imagining you're in the Caribbean, give this book a go. Question 2. Nature is beautiful but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written but also deals with a heavy topic like loss or grief. So for this I picked what actually was I think my favourite book of last year. That is How to Be a Kosovan Bride by Naomi Hamill. This book talks about the Kosovan War and some of the after effects of that. There's also some Kosovan folk tales mixed in there which are really beautifully recreated. It follows two women who at the start of the novel get married and then what happens to them in their relationships and how those relationships develop or don't and what happens to them. One thing I really loved about this book that I've not heard done before really, so one girl is referred to throughout as the Kosovan wife and that sort of becomes her defining characteristic, and the other girl is deemed unsuitable after the wedding and so is returned to her family and is then referred to as the returned girl. So they're not named, they're just called by those terms throughout, which makes the book feel really universal as it could be talking about any number of people in that situation. It covers some really deep topics about neglect, emotional abuse, and some of the stories of what happened in the war are based on real events. So Naomi Hamill, who wrote it, regularly goes out to Kosovo to work with children, war orphans, that sort of thing. And so the stories told in this book are based on different stories that she's heard from people, from the Kosovan people. So this was a really, really powerful book. Question 3. Autumn is back to school season. Share a non-fiction book that taught you something new. So the book that I picked for this was one that I came across while I was researching for my dissertation on feminist theology. It's not actually a theological book, but it was one I used to get a bit of background in some of the ways that women are mistreated in the world, and it was actually quite a scary book. It's called Unnatural Selection by Hvistendahl, I think that's pronounced. So this book is about cases of sex-selective abortion, which is quite widespread in many countries across the world, and it has led to an imbalance in the ratio of boys born to girls, which usually would be 105 boys to every 100 girls born, but in some places as high as 130 boys born for every 100 girls, which in those terms doesn't sound like much, but when you multiply that by the size of the population, it is quite an imbalance. And so this book talks about some of the effects that has on society. It's one thing that's not really talked about among feminist circles, because abortion is an important issue for feminists about women's determination of their own bodily rights. But this is a part of the issue that is not often talked about because it's not liked by certain feminists to talk about some of the negative aspects of abortion. And actually, that is one thing that is clear that the author has struggled with as she's writing it, is because she is a feminist and she thinks abortion should be a right that's allowed to all women, but actually it can be abused. And in some of the stories in here are forced abortions and things like that, and it's quite chilling really. And so it looks at actually how society talks about women and talks about daughters. Yeah, I found it really powerful and, as I say, a little bit scary. So if you're interested in that subject, this is a really interesting one. Question 4. In order to keep warm, it's good to spend time with people we love. Name a fictional family or household or friendship group that you would like to be part of. So this may seem like a bit of a weird choice, but bear with me. Again, as I was looking at my shelves trying to pick a book that I haven't talked about before, I saw one of my all-time favourite books and I thought actually that fits the bill. I would just need to be a rabbit, and it is Watership Down by Richard Adams. The friendships between the rabbits in this book are just beautiful, and if they were human people, then they would be the ultimate friendship group. So if you're not familiar with the story, one rabbit, Fiver, has a premonition that something is going to happen to their warren, and he persuades his friend Hazel and a number of the other rabbits that they need to leave and find somewhere new to live. So they set out on this journey. They encounter many dangers along the way and really bond together as a group, despite the fact that some of them were on essentially opposing sides back in their old warren, but actually they have to learn how to work together and support each other. So I found that really powerful. So I love this book. I love Richard Adams' storytelling. I love the characters, and if I ever have rabbits of my own, they're going to be named after characters in this. Yeah, so this is a really beautiful story of friendship. Question 5. The colourful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a pile of autumn-coloured spines. Try not to drop them. I love orange-coloured books, or sort of the rust colour. Oh, here we go. Try not to drop them. Some yellows and some browns in there. And these are all books from my TBR shelf, so I need to get on to reading them soon. Right. Question 6. Autumn is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein someone is telling a story. So my favourite example of a story within a story, or a book about books, is a book called The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I think that's her name. I've actually lent my copy of this to a friend ages ago and she hasn't given it back yet, and I really want it back because I want to reread it, but never mind. And it's a few years since I read it, so if I'm a bit dodgy on the plot, please forgive me. But basically the idea is an ageing famous novelist has decided she wants her biography written, so she chooses a fledgling writer who works in a bookshop as well to come and be her biographer. She is telling her story of her childhood. Essentially, she grew up in a stately home with her twin sister, and it's about what happened to them and how the family fell apart essentially. So the main character, whose name I can't remember, is staying in this stately home, and I just remember it being really atmospheric, and it's about a book about books. Yeah, it's one that I really enjoyed, and my memory on it is a little bit rusty, so I really do want to reread it soon. I was reminded of it actually because a lot of people are talking about a book called The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, is that the name of it? Which sounds like a sort of a slight, in some ways similar idea, but about a movie star. And so that's a book that I really want to read, and hearing people talk about that book made me think about The 13th Tale and how I really want to reread that. Question 7. The nights are getting darker. Share a dark, creepy read. So, I don't read a lot of very creepy books. I was trying to pick a book that has some sort of that suspense, creepy element to it, and so I picked Masque by Bethany W. Pope. So this is a Phantom of the Opera retelling, and it is told mainly from the perspective of Christine, but also brings in a lot of the perspective of the Phantom. I thought it was really beautifully written and quite gothic, sort of slightly gothic take on the story. So if you're familiar with the musical, this takes a slightly different perspective in that it gives Christine a lot more autonomy, gives her a bit more backbone, so she stands up for herself a bit more. It also paints Raoul in a different light, and that's, I think, where the creepy element comes in. He becomes a bit more stalkerish in this book than he is in the musical. And again, it takes it on a different perspective from the original novel, which was told more as a sort of detective mystery story. So I thought this was a really good retelling, gives a bit more background to the characters and essentially makes them a bit more lifelike. I really loved the musical, don't get me wrong, but I really liked the way the characters were portrayed in this, and this was actually a Ninja Book Club book end of last year, so it was a really good one. Question 8. The days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold, rainy day. So I picked actually another Ninja Book Club pick for this one, and this is one of my favourite books of the year so far. So it is one I've talked about before on this channel, and that is The Sewing Machine by Natalie Fergie. This is a really lovely story. I read it, I'd been in a bit of a reading slump when I decided, when this book came up as our book club pick, and it cured my reading slump. It felt like having a hug from a book, and it was just, it's beautifully written. It's set in Edinburgh, which is a city that I love. I visited a couple of times, and it's the story of two families who are linked by one sewing machine. So one is the family of a woman who worked in the factory where the sewing machine was made, and the other is the family of the woman who bought the sewing machine, or was bought the sewing machine. And the two stories intertwine. It's told across 4 generations, and it's just really beautiful, really comforting read. So if you've had a bad day, this is a really nice one. It's just under 300 pages, which to me is short. So yeah, this is a really lovely book. Question 9. Autumn returns every year. Name an old favourite you would like to return to soon. So I actually recently filmed a video on this. It was a Top 5 Wednesday video that I filmed shockingly late. So I'll link that down below so you can get my full answer of 5 books that I love that I want to revisit soon. But for now, I'm just going to mention the one that I'm going to reread soonest, which is Emma by Jane Austen. So I'm hoping to get to that this month. This is my favourite Jane Austen book, and I love it. Question 10. Autumn is the perfect time for cosy reading nights. Share your favourite cosy reading accessories. So my favourite cosy reading accessory is actually this blanket here behind me. This is one I crocheted a couple of years ago. The yarn is very soft. It's just really warm and lovely, and I love curling up on the sofa wrapped in this blanket with a cup of tea by my side and reading a good book. So that is my favourite cosy accessory. And finally, question 11 is tag people. So usually I've not been very good at actually tagging people when I do tag videos, but I realised kind of the point of a tag video is to tag other people. And then I saw, I think it was Dane Rees chooses people that have recently commented on his videos to tag, and I thought actually that's quite a good way of picking people, because they're more likely to have seen that they've been tagged because they'll be watching, hopefully still watching the videos. And so I've picked 3 people that have commented on some of my videos recently, and I'll link their channels down below in the comments as well, and I'll try and let you know on Twitter as well, so in case you don't see it. So anyway, so that is Sarcasm and Sci-Fi, Brews and Reviews, and It's My Birthright. So congratulations, you are tagged. If you are not tagged but you still want to make this video, I think it's quite a fun one and very seasonal, so please feel free to say I have tagged you even if I've not mentioned you by name. So that's all from me for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you've enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books. Please think about subscribing, and you can follow me on social media. All that information is in the description, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye!